Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into an incredible library of sources, all focused on one thing: maximizing your culinary efficiency. We're talking about a deep dive into the world of homemade mixes.
Yeah, and this is so much more than just a list of recipes. It's an operating manual. It's a whole system for streamlining your kitchen.
Exactly. We've got shortcuts here for basically everything: spice blends, complete cake batters, bread mixes. You name it, it's all designed for convenience.
That's the perfect way to frame it. It's kitchen optimization. The whole idea is to do the tedious stuff, the measuring, the sifting, all that up front.
So that when you actually want to cook, it's almost done.
It's almost done. You just add the wet ingredients, like an egg or some milk, and you're good to go. It's pure preparation today for overwhelming ease tomorrow. That's the philosophy.
So our mission today is to unpack this library, shortcut by shortcut. We want to show you exactly how you can have your favorite dishes ready to go at a moment's notice. We'll start right at the beginning with the foundational stuff.
The absolute basics. Some simple coating mixes and a few sweet treats to get us started.
Okay, so the very first item really sets the tone for this whole system. It's called the all-purpose coating mix.
And it is. It's minimalist efficiency. It proves that even the smallest, tiniest steps can be batched to save you time down the line.
When you look at the ingredients, it's almost funny how simple it is. You just need salt, black pepper, and breadcrumbs.
That's it. 1.5 cups of breadcrumbs, half a teaspoon of salt, and a quarter teaspoon of black pepper.
So the magic isn't the recipe itself.
No, not at all. The insight is the technique. You combine those three things, mix them up, and store them in airtight Tupperware. That's it.
So when you're running late, you need to dredge some chicken or vegetables. You don't have to pull out 3 different containers.
You skip those 30 seconds, and those 30 seconds matter. It's ready to go, seasoning, on demand.
Okay, moving from that to something a little sweeter. Let's talk about the apple muffins mix. This is where we see that concept of dry batching really come into play.
Absolutely. This is where you separate the shelf-stable stuff from what you need to add fresh.
So the premix,
Yeah.
what's in that?
It's all dry ingredients, which is why it can be stored for so long.
Right.
You've got 2 cups of self-rising flour, a mix of sugars, half a cup of refined sugar, and a quarter cup of brown sugar.
And the flavor elements.
Right. A teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a quarter teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and this is the critical part 1 cup of chopped dried apple.
It has to be dried, doesn't it?
It has to be dried. That allows the fruit to be stored indefinitely with the dry base. If you used fresh apple, the whole thing would spoil in a day.
So you mix all that up, put it in a container, and then when you want muffins, what do you add?
Just 3 simple wet ingredients: 1 large egg, a quarter cup of vegetable oil, and 3/4 of a cup of milk. Everything else is already done. The measuring, the seasoning, it's all in the jar.
And the baking is quick.
Super quick. Preheat to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Mix the wet stuff into your pre-made mix. Fill your muffin tins about 3/4 full and bake for, 15 to 18 minutes? Until they're golden.
It's a perfect example. You batch 7 ingredients once, and you have instant access to warm muffins basically whenever you want.
Exactly.
Okay, our third item, the apple pie spice. This one introduces a really key technical requirement that we're going to see over and over again in these sources.
Yes. The obsession with consistency.
The triple sifting.
The triple sifting. This is all about precision. The blend itself is pretty complex. You've got 3 tablespoons of cinnamon, 1 of nutmeg, half a teaspoon each of clove and allspice.
But then there are these 2 fascinating additions. A teaspoon of instant tea and a teaspoon of cornstarch.
Yeah, that's where it gets clever.
Instant tea. I would never have thought of that. What's the purpose of those 2?
Well, the cornstarch is mainly an anti-caking agent. It keeps the blend from clumping up so it stays free-flowing. The instant tea, though, that's for flavor depth. Oh, yeah, it adds this very, very subtle, dark, sort of tannic note. It complements the fruitiness of an apple pie and just elevates the whole thing. It gives it that professional, complex taste.
But the key instruction, the one that's non-negotiable in the source, is that you have to sift the mixture 3 times. Why 3?
Because once isn't enough. Sifting once breaks up big clumps, sure. But sifting 3 times guarantees that every single particle, the cinnamon, the tea granules, the cornstarch, is completely and evenly distributed.
So every scoop is identical.
Every single half teaspoon scoop is perfectly balanced. If you only sift once, you might get a little pocket of clove powder and it throws off the whole dish.
And the storage on this one is interesting too. It says 3 months in a cool, dry place. but up to 12 months if you refrigerate it.
A huge difference. That's a fourfold increase in stability. It just shows how sensitive the volatile oils and ground spices are. Refrigeration slows down their chemical breakdown, so they maintain that peak flavor for way, way longer.
Okay, let's unpack this next section. We're diving heavily into the world of the bread machine. This is where the whole mix and store system really gets maximized.
It really does, and it's all about this idea of layering ingredients inside the jar. That's what makes things like the delay function on the machine even possible.
So first up is the apple spice bread mix. And the genius here, it seems, is how the jar is structured.
Exactly. The foundation is your standard dry base. It's got a lot of flour, 3 1/4 cups, plus sugar, dry milk, and salt.
But then comes this brilliant separation strategy. You need 2 teaspoons of apple pie spice and ½ cup of chopped dried apples. But you put them in a Ziploc bag on top of the flour mixture in the jar.
That separation is absolutely critical. It has to be done that way.
Why?
2 reasons. First, it stops the dry milk and flour from, sucking all the moisture out of the spices or apples over time. But more importantly, it's about the sequence for the bread machine.
Right, the order you add things in matters.
It matters a lot. So at baking time, you add your activation ingredients, 1 1/4 cups of warm water, and it specifies 110 degrees Fahrenheit vegetable oil and your yeast.
Pause on that temperature. 110 degrees. Why so specific?
Yeast is alive, right? It's a living organism, and it's picky about temperature. Too cold and it's sluggish, your bread won't rise. Too hot, you kill it completely.
And then you get a brick.
You get a break. 110 degrees is that perfect sweet spot. It wakes the yeast up gently and gets it working, ensuring a good, reliable rise.
And the instructions say to load the pan with water and oil first, then the jar mixture, and then the spice, apples, and yeast go on top last. Select the sweet setting.
And then we get the complete savory counterpoint to that, the bacon, egg, and cheese bread mix. It uses the exact same layering strategy, but for a breakfast loaf.
The jar mix for this one is simpler. 3 cups of flour, a bit of sugar, and salt. The sugar's just there to feed the yeast, I assume.
Yep, it's not for sweetness. But the separation here is even more sophisticated. You're using 2 different Ziploc bags on top of the mix.
2 bags.
2 bags. One has the flavorings, 1/3 cup of dehydrated bacon bits, and ½ cup of Parmesan cheese. The other, smaller bag just has the yeast. 3 teaspoons of active dry yeast.
So you're keeping the fat from the cheese and bacon away from everything until the last minute.
Exactly, you isolate it. At baking time, you add your wet ingredients, 1 1/8 cups of water, very precise, 1 egg, and 2 tablespoons of veggie oil.
And for this one, the instructions say to use the white setting, not the sweet setting. And it specifically mentions using the delay option.
And that's the real win here, isn't it?
That's the whole point.
It is. That separation of the yeast means you can set this up the night before, you load it up, program the delay timer for 8 hours, and you wake up to the smell of fresh, hot, savory bacon and cheese bread. That is the ultimate payoff of this system.
Okay, this next part is really interesting. We're jumping into some foundational staples and then hitting the very complex batch baking concepts. We start with a great kitchen hack. How to make your own baking powder from scratch.
This is pure kitchen empowerment. It's a simple 2-ingredient formula, and the ratio is everything. 1 teaspoon of Arm & Hammer baking soda to 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar.
So it's chemistry, right? What's happening when you combine those two?
It's all chemistry. Baking soda is a base sodium bicarbonate. It needs an acid to react and create carbon dioxide, which is what makes things rise. Cream of tartar is an acidic salt. So by mixing them in that precise 2-to-1 ratio, you're creating a single-action baking powder that reacts the second it gets wet. It's an essential trick.
Then we swing hard to the savory side with this barbecue spice mix. This thing is complex.
It is, yeah. It's all about layering flavors. You've got chili powder, hickory flavor salt, cumin, paprika, garlic, brown sugar for that rich base.
And then cayenne for heat, lemon rind for some brightness.
Right. And dry mustard. Now, the source does have a small typo. It lists 3 of onion powder without a unit. But given the scale, we can assume it means 3 tablespoons, probably. The point isn't the exact measurement there, but the sheer number of ingredients.
The insight is that you've pre-mixed a 10-ingredient flavor profile. You don't have to pull out 10 jars every time you want to season something.
Precisely. You've blended sweet, heat, smoke, earthiness, and acidity into one master mix. It simplifies things so much.
Okay, now get to the absolute heart of the whole strategy. The 3 versions of the basic cake mix. These all center around the technique of cutting in shortening.
We should probably define that technique. Cutting in means working a solid fat, like shortening, into your flour until the mixture looks like coarse crumbs, almost like cornmeal.
And what does that do?
It coats the flour particles with fat. That prevents gluten from developing too much, which is what gives you a tender cake instead of a tough one. And because the fat is stable, the mix can be stored for months.
Let's break down the 3 versions, starting with version 1. This one seems massive and very labor-intensive.
Version 1 is for huge batches. 11 cups of flour, almost 8 cups of sugar. And the method is really intensive. You start by creaming the shortening with about half the sugar. Then you take the rest of the dry ingredients, which have to be sifted 3 times.
There's that triple sifting again.
It's non-negotiable for these base mixes.
Sure.
You add a bit of that sifted mix to the creamed sugar, then you combine everything, and you have to keep cutting until it's all perfectly blended like cornmeal.
And the yield is huge. 6 portions, 3.5 cups each. Storage is limited, though. A month in a cool place or longer in the freezer.
Right, because of all the fat. Version 2 is a bit more straightforward.
So.
It's simpler to manage. 8 cups of sifted flour, baking powder, shortening, salt, 5 cups of sugar.
Wow.
You just mix it all thoroughly, no initial creaming step.
And the storage is a bit longer.
6 weeks at room temp or 6 months frozen.
Yeah.
It uses a little less fat, different ratios.
And finally, version 3.
Version 3 is smaller scale. 6 cups of flour, 1.5 cups of Crisco. But you still have that same instruction. Cup the shortening in until it seems like a cornmeal. This one, interestingly, has the shortest shelf life at just 1 month max in a dry, cool spot.
Okay, moving from cakes to the basic muffin mix. This one is another high-yield staple.
Yeah, this makes about 8 cups of mix. It's flour, sugar, non-fat powdered milk, baking powder, and salt, all sifted together.
But unlike the cake mixes, this one specifically suggests freezer storage. Why the freezer?
It's likely because of the powdered milk. Powdered milk can sometimes absorb moisture from the air, and that moisture can degrade the baking powder over time, which would give you flat muffins. Freezing just stops that process completely.
The only catch is you have to let it thaw before you use it.
A small trade-off for up to 2 months of stability.
Okay, the last item in this section is a brilliant savory one. The beef or chicken rigatoni, a homemade boxed meal, basically.
This just proves the principle is universal. The mix combines uncooked rice, broken vermicelli pasta, dried parsley, instant bouillon granules, and spices.
And to cook it, you just take a cup of the mix, add some margarine and water, boil, and simmer for 15 minutes. It's so fast.
Super fast. But there is one critical note here, and it's highlighted for a reason. Do not use instant rice.
Why not?
Because instant rice has a totally different cooking time. It would turn to mush long before the regular rice and the vermicelli were properly cooked. The whole thing is engineered to cook perfectly together.
That makes sense. Okay, now we're moving into some more specialized items, starting with something I didn't expect to see, blackberry vinegar.
Yeah, this is less about speed and more about high-quality flavor infusion. It's a nod to traditional preserving. The ingredients are blackberries, vinegar, sugar, and then warming spices like cloves, allspice, and cinnamon sticks.
And uses a classic technique, a spice pouch.
Right, you wrap the spices in cheesecloth. The process is pretty meticulous. You boil the sugar and vinegar to make a syrup. Then you dump that spice pouch in for 5 minutes to get the oils out.
And then the blackberries go in.
For another 10 minutes. Then you cool it, remove the pouch, and sieve the whole mixture. It creates this really complex, sweet and tart vinegar that's perfect for dressings.
Moving back to coatings, we have the breading mix for chicken or pork.
Yeah.
This one is fundamentally different from that first simple mix we talked about.
It is, because this one has fat integrated directly into the dry mix.
The dry parts are breadcrumbs, flour, salt, sugar, and a really nice seasoning blend with paprika and oregano. But the key is the 1/4 cup of shortening.
And you have to cut in that shortening, just like with the cake mixes. But the purpose is different here. In the cakes, it was for tenderness. Here, it's for crispiness.
How does that work?
When you bake the coated chicken, that integrated shortening melts. It provides the fat needed to get the coating crispy and golden brown without it drying out. It's a shortcut to getting that fried texture in the oven.
Next up, another bread machine recipe. The brownie bread mix. This one has a really crucial prep step.
It does. The dry mix is pretty standard: flour, sugar, salt. The separates in the Ziploc bags are cocoa powder, pecans, and yeast.
But the nuance is in the liquid.
This is the technical triumph of this recipe. You have to first boil the water and then whisk the cocoa powder into that boiling water until it's totally dissolved.
Why do that separately?
It's to get rid of that grainy texture you sometimes get with cocoa powder. It ensures a really smooth, rich chocolate flavor. But, and this is the most important part, you then have to let that cocoa liquid cool completely before you put it in the bread pan.
Why is that cooling step so vital?
Because if you pour that hot liquid in, you'll kill the yeast instantly. Remember, yeast likes it warm, not boiling hot. By pre-dissolving and then cooling the cocoa, you get perfect flavor and you protect the yeast. It's genius.
Okay, then a quick shift back to seasoning with the Cajun seasoning mix. This one is all about the pepper profile.
It is. It's built on this layered pepper foundation. You've got black pepper, white pepper, and a lot of cayenne. That gives you heat from different sources. And then you add paprika, onion powder, and garlic powder to round it out.
And contrast that with the chili seasoning mix, which is just designed for massive bulk preparation.
The scale is the whole point of this one. It makes the equivalent of 12 of those store-bought chili packets. 2 cups of chili powder, 3.5 cups of minced onions. It's huge.
So you make this once, and you have a dozen chili dinners ready to go.
Exactly. Just add the meat and liquid.
So what does this all mean? I mean, it means convenience is modular. We can take those big batches of basic cake mix we made earlier and turn them into totally different desserts with almost no effort.
This is the payoff right here. This is
Right.
why you did that work up front. We've got 3 different chocolate cake variations here, each using one of those base mixes.
Okay, so chocolate cake version 1. This one uses 2 cups of the basic cake 2 mix, and it uses ice water.
The ice water is crucial for the texture. When you have a mix with the fat already cut in, using a cold liquid keeps that fat solid for as long as possible while it's mixing.
Which gives you a lighter cake.
A lighter, more tender crumb and a better rise. Exactly.
Now compare that to chocolate cake version 2. This uses the basic cake version 3 mix, but with whole milk and melted chocolate.
A key distinction. Using melted chocolate instead of cocoa powder adds more fat and gives you a much richer, denser, moister cake. It's more decadent.
And the third one, the chocolate chip and nut cake, is the simplest of all.
Right. For this one, you just mix up the batter and then you sprinkle the chocolate chips and nuts on top right before you bake it. That stops them all from sinking to the bottom.
Moving on to cookies, we have chocolate chip cookies, which is another activation recipe.
Yep. You take 3.5 cups of a basic cookie mixture that you've already made. To turn it into cookies, you just add 1 beaten egg, some vanilla, and your chocolate morsels.
No creaming butter and sugar.
None of that. The fat's already in the mix. It's a huge time saver. You can have fresh cookies in under 20 minutes from start to finish.
Okay, back to the bread machine for 2 more really creative loaves. First, the chocolate cookie bread mix.
This one is fun. The special inclusion is 1 cup of crushed chocolate cookie sandwiches, like Oreos, which you store in a separate Ziploc.
And it calls for 1.5 eggs. That's so specific.
It is, yeah. It suggests a very fine-tuned moisture content. The key here is that the machine uses the sweet setting, and you add the crushed cookies after the beep.
So they stay in chunks.
So they don't turn the whole dough into a gray mush.
Exactly. Then there's the chocolate chip bread mix.
This one is designed for a more uniform chocolate flavor. The cocoa powder is mixed right into the dry base from the start. The separate inclusion is just miniature chocolate morsels.
And this one uses the white setting, not the sweet setting.
Right. It's a good example of how you have to adjust the machine's cycle based on the ingredients. Then we have the cinnamon nut bread mix, which is pretty straightforward.
Cinnamon in the base, pecans and yeast separated out. Sweet setting, add the nuts after the beep.
The logic holds. It's all about controlling when those volatile ingredients get added.
And the final items in this section are cinnamon raisin bagels and bread. Let's start with the bagels, because the prep on this seems involved.
It is. The key here is how you treat the raisins. You can't just throw them in dry.
You have to soak them in warm water for 10 minutes, drain them, pat them dry, and then toss them in a cinnamon sugar mix.
It's a necessary process. Soaking plumps them up so they don't suck moisture out of your dough. Drying them and coating them stops them from clumping. It's a lot of steps, but it's for a reason. And this recipe uses the dough setting, so you still have to shape and boil the bagels yourself.
Whereas the cinnamon raisin bread mix is a set-it-and-forget-it loaf.
Exactly. It uses the machine's full sweet cycle. It's a simpler process for a simpler outcome. What's so fascinating here in this next section is just the sheer variety of hot beverage mixes. It's all about taking basic powdered staples, milk powder, cocoa, creamer, and batching them into these custom high-volume flavors.
We kick off with a huge one, the cocoa mix Malted. This looks like it would fill your whole pantry shelf.
It's a massive batch, a whole 25-ounce pack of dry milk, 6 cups of miniature marshmallows, a pound of instant chocolate mix malt powder. It just goes on.
But how do the marshmallows not get weird and sticky in storage?
Because everything else is so incredibly dry, they're protected inside that dry powder matrix. And the key flavors here are that malted milk powder, which adds richness, and the marshmallows, which give you instant froth when you add hot water.
The next few pages are 5 different cocoa variations. Let's start with the Mexican cocoa mix.
This one is all about the spice. It uses brown sugar, a good amount of cinnamon, and powdered vanilla to get that classic warm Mexican chocolate flavor.
The peppermint cocoa mix has a very specific instruction for getting the flavor right.
It does. You have to use a food processor.
A food processor?
Yep. You take 3 of those hard peppermint candy sticks and you have to blend them with the cocoa and sugar. The processor is essential to pulverize that hard candy down to a fine powder. If you just crushed it, you'd get big chunks and uneven flavor.
And the next 2, raspberry and cherry, use a really clever shortcut for fruit flavor.
This is an incredible insight. They use Kool-Aid juice powders.
Seriously?
Seriously. You just blend in a packet of raspberry Kool-Aid or a bit of cherry Kool-Aid with your cocoa mix. It gives you a stable, powdered fruit flavoring without adding any moisture. It's brilliant.
And the last one is a spiced cocoa mix.
This one adds a caffeine kick. It's got instant coffee powder in it, along with allspice and cinnamon. It's basically an instant spiced mocha blend.
Then there's the cocoa mix French vanilla, which is another huge batch with a really distinct flavor.
Yeah, the secret ingredient here is 2 whole jars of amaretto-flavored non-dairy creamer. That's where you get that French vanilla and nutty almond profile from.
Moving to coffee. The Coffee Continental is the simplest mocha shortcut I've ever seen.
It's just 2 ingredients, 1 cup of cocoa powder and 3/4 of a cup of coffee powder. That's it. You've made an instant mocha mix.
We end the beverages with 2 coffee creamer mixes. First, chocolate malt.
Pretty straightforward. It's a dry creamer mix with cocoa powder, malted milk powder, and cinnamon. You just add it to your black coffee in the morning.
And the second one, chocolate mint, specifies a certain kind of cocoa powder.
Yes, it calls for Dutch processed cocoa powder. This is a key technical detail.
Okay, unpack that. Why Dutch process?
Dutch processed cocoa is cocoa that's been washed in an alkaline solution. It neutralizes the acidity. So in a recipe like this, where there's no baking involved, it's purely for flavor. It gives you a darker, richer, more mellow chocolate flavor that's less bitter. It just results in a superior, professional-tasting mint creamer.
Okay, let's look at these cookie mixes. This is where we move beyond just dry storage and really start to see fat incorporated into the base mix for longer-term storage.
This section really shows the difference between a mix that saves you measuring time and a mix that saves you creaming time. It's a big step up.
So the cookie mix chocolate chunk is the more traditional approach.
Exactly. It's all the dry ingredients, flour, sugars, cocoa, leavening agents, plus the chips and nuts. It's a shelf-stable dry mix.
But when you go to bake, you still have to add softened butter. And it specifically says no substitutes.
Right. It relies on the flavor and structure of fresh butter. So you're saving the measuring step, but you still have to do the creaming step on baking day.
Now compare that to the cookie mix chocolate, which has the fat built in.
A completely different approach. The dry base is huge, with over a cup of Hershey's cocoa. But the critical step is that you take 1.5 cups of butter or margarine and cut it in until you have coarse crumbs.
When you store this mix in the fridge, what does that do for convenience?
It transforms the whole process. Instead of 5 steps, it's 2. You just scoop out the crumbly mix and add your egg and vanilla. It dramatically shortens the time you spend on baking day.
The next one, the basic oatmeal cookie mix, highlights flexibility.
It does. The base is flour, sugars, baking soda, and 1 cup of shortening, which is cut in. Then you add 3 cups of rolled oats. And because it uses shortening, which is stable at room temperature, it has an incredible shelf life.
1 to 5 months in a cool, dry place.
And it's flexible. The recipe includes optional additions like raisins, walnuts, or peanut butter chips, so you can customize it every time.
Our final cookie mix is the sugar cookie mix. This one uses a blend of fats and has a great garnish hack.
Yeah, the technique here is to cream the room temperature butter and the shortening together first, and then cut that creamy fat mixture into the dry ingredients.
And because of all that fat, it gets stored in the fridge.
Right. To activate it, you just combine 2 cups of the mix with sugar, vanilla milk, and an egg. And the garnish hack is fantastic.
Tell me about that.
To make colored sugar sprinkles, you just put a quarter cup of sugar in a shaker, add 2 drops of food coloring, seal it, and shake it like crazy until the color is even. No need to buy specialty sprinkles.
That's a great tip. Okay, this final section covers a really unique and specialized group of mixes, everything from homemade liqueurs to pet treats.
It really shows how universal this system is. We're starting with a high-end one, the creme de cacao.
Yeah.
This is all about precise heat control.
Right, you have to boil sugar and water and then
Mhm.
simmer it until the volume is reduced by half. You're making a concentrated syrup.
And separately, you're melting chocolate. The technique is to gradually add that syrup to the melted chocolate while stirring constantly so it stays smooth. But the most important step is letting it cool down completely before you add the vodka and vanilla.
Why is that cooling step so essential?
Alcohol evaporates with heat. If you add the vodka to a warm syrup, a lot of that alcohol will just flash off, and you'll end up with a weaker, less flavorful liquor. Next up, the Creole seasoning, a definitive Southern spice blend.
The ratios here are intense. Equal parts paprika and salt, then a bit less pepper and garlic powder, and then thyme, oregano, and cayenne for heat. It has a great shelf life, 12 weeks.
And then for texture, we have the crispy coating mix. This goes way beyond simple breadcrumbs.
It's so interesting. It uses crushed cornflakes, wheat germ, and sesame seeds. It's clearly designed for maximum crunch.
It's a genius combination for getting a crispy baked crust without deep frying. The cornflakes give you crunch, the wheat germ adds nuttiness, and the sesame seeds add flavor. The shelf life is shorter, though, only 8 weeks.
Probably because the cornflakes and wheat germ can go stale.
Exactly.
Back to the bread machine one last time for crunchy honey wheat bread.
This one is a blend of whole wheat and white flour. The separated inclusion is toasted slivered almonds. You have to use the machine's whole wheat setting, which has a longer rise time to handle the heavier dough. Then we have a surprisingly efficient one, doggy biscuits.
Homemade pet treats. The ingredients are just kitchen staples, whole wheat flour, egg, broth, and some seasonings.
But the cooking method is what's really interesting here. After you cut them out, you microwave them on high for 10 minutes. It dehydrates them really quickly, and then they have to cool completely to get hard and crunchy.
Okay, now for what might be the ultimate in morning efficiency, freezer pancake batter.
This is next level. It's a standard dry mix, but then you cut in half a cup of shortening. Then you add your eggs and milk and mix it all together into a smooth batter.
And you can store that batter in the freezer for a whole year. How?
The shortening is the key. It acts like a protective shield, coating all the dry ingredients and locking the baking powder in an inactive state. Since shortening is so stable, once it's frozen, the batter is perfectly preserved. You just need to thaw it for 30 minutes before you cook. We round out the bread mixes with a few garlic varieties. The garlic bagel mix has garlic and parsley in the base.
The garlic bread mix separates the delicate herbs rosemary and thyme in a Ziploc bag to protect them.
And the garlic cheese bread mix just mixes the Parmesan and garlic right into the flour for a really uniform flavor.
The very last recipe is for granola bars.
This one uses Bisquick and instant oats as the base. You mix it all up, press it into a pan, bake for just 15 minutes, and then, critically, you have to slice it into squares while it's still hot before it firms up. It's a great example of using one mix to create another. So this entire deep dive, it really reveals a masterful, systematic strategy for the kitchen. The core insight is all about control. Pre-mixing what's stable, cutting in fats for longevity, and then vigilantly separating anything volatile like yeast or nuts.
And the specific techniques, like triple sifting or using refrigeration for spices, those are the cornerstones of the whole system.
They absolutely are.
The aha moments for me were all about those little details, understanding the difference between the 3 cake mixes and why their fat ratios matter so much, or that trick of pre-dissolving and cooling the cocoa for the brownie bread to protect the yeast. That's a powerful detail. And honestly, the idea of a year's worth of pancake batter in my freezer, that's the ultimate win. It just proves that little extra work today saves you countless minutes of prep down the road.
It's all built on that philosophy. Preparation today for ease tomorrow. It just fundamentally changes how you think about the time commitment of cooking. So here's the final thought for you to consider. If reducing future effort is the goal, which single recipe mix, sweet or savory, offers you the greatest long-term return on that initial investment? Is it a daily shortcut like the rigaronis, or is it the ability to have a fresh cake ready in minutes from one of those big batch mixes? Think about which one would most dramatically change your weekly routine, because that's the powerful knowledge you can now put into practice.